grievous loss of life. Late this afternoon, the government announced that the cruiser General Belgrano is now presumed to have sunk. And ABC News has been told only 270 of the 700 men on board have been accounted for. That means more than 400 are missing. The cruiser was torpedoed by a British submarine yesterday. We have this late report from Sander Van Ocker in Buenos Aires.
A spokesman for the Joint Military Chiefs of Staff late this afternoon issued the official communique about the Belgrano. The government first announced the Belgrano had been torpedoed just after midnight near the Beagle Channel and Tierra del Fuego, which is outside the so-called zone of exclusion. Non-military Argentine government sources have told ABC News the ship definitely has been sunk, that the survivors are out in life rafts in heavy seas, in temperatures around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Efforts are being made to rescue them.
General Belgrano was a threat to our men, and therefore it was quite correct that she was attacked by our submarines. If a submarine exercising our right of self-defense attacks a ship of that sort, it is not possible to set out to disable it. The impact of an attack by torpedoes of this kind is impossible to predict.
Diplomatic front, the Foreign Ministry confirmed to ABC News that the Argentinians have rejected a Peruvian peace plan put forward through Peru by the United States. The essential part of the proposal called for the future of the islanders to be decided in accordance with their interests and aspirations. At first, the military junta was interested in pursuing this initiative. But then the Peruvians, acting on the initiative of the United States, changed interests and aspirations to wishes of the islanders, which the junta immediately rejected, as wishes is a code word for plebiscite, a red flag to the Argentinians, for that is what the British have been insisting on throughout past negotiations. The Argentinian government has sent a note of protest to the United States, charging that by ending the negotiations, the United States accelerated the armed attack by the British. ABC News has also been told that the Argentinian Navy in particular is furious, charging privately, without offering concrete evidence, that the United States supplied intelligence data to the British, which allowed them to locate and sink the Belgrano. Sander Van Ocker, ABC News, Buenos Aires.
American intelligence sources say that Argentina's fleet is suffering badly under British pressure. For example, after the attack that first crippled then sunk the General Belgrano, Argentina was for hours unable to find it. Today, sources say the 12 major combat ships left in Argentina's Navy are venturing much farther from shore, apparently looking for a fight with the British well outside the 200-mile zone of hostilities. Even inside that zone, finding ships is no easy task. It's an area of 166,000 square miles, bigger than all of New England, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York combined. On the Falklands themselves, American sources say Saturday's bombing not only cratered the runways at Stanley and Goose Green, but also destroyed virtually all the jet fuel and ammunition stored there. They also bombed the barracks, presumed to be empty, where the British Royal Marines were housed before Argentina invaded. American sources say that Argentina's casualties were light before the General Belgrano was sunk, and now many analysts believe the fighting will escalate.
Beyond a very limited delay, I can't see how the British can afford to wait very much longer before they go ashore. I think they're quite confident they can do it. But they are playing a very political game.
That political game is to chip away at Argentina's military until the government is forced to either negotiate or it collapses. Barring that, American sources believe that the British will have little choice but to take the Falklands by force.
This is BBC One. Now a news report from John Humphreys.
Britain has suffered its first major losses in the Falklands conflict. The Ministry of Defence announced tonight that the destroyer Sheffield came under an Argentine missile attack.
In the course of its duties within the total exclusion zone around the Falkland Islands, HMS Sheffield, a Type 42 destroyer, was attacked and hit late this afternoon by an Argentine missile. The ship caught fire, which spread out of control. When there was no longer any hope of saving the ship's company abandoned ship. All who abandoned her were picked up. It is feared that there had been a number of casualties, but we have no details of them yet. Next of kin will be informed first as soon as details are received.
A trickle of Sheffield crewmen continued to come aboard the flagship with minor injuries. They were dazed, but walking from the helicopters with the assistance of the medical orderlies. After 5 hours, the ship was abandoned to the fire. But Sheffield would not sink. After the fire had burned out, she was still there, shrouded in sea mist, but floating upright. Occasional wisps of steam came from the foredeck, where the survivors had gathered waiting to be rescued, and singing, "You got to look on the bright side of life." After 5 hours, the captain made the painful decision to abandon ship.
What happened the moment after? How the men reacted, how you reacted, what
The men were quite incredible. Morale was really at an incredibly high level, and teamwork was really excellent. My overriding impression was of immense calm, common sense, and careful thinking. The ship's company really saved themselves largely by their own sensible efforts. They were quite remarkable.
Labour's leader Michael Foot has described what happened as grave and tragic. He was prepared to wait for a full government statement tomorrow, but some Labour MPs weren't, and a few moments ago several demanded an immediate government statement on what one has described as this massive folly taking place. The leader of the Commons, John Biffin, eventually said he would pass their views on to the Defence Secretary, John Nott. And I understand there could well be a holding statement within the next few minutes. But it's being stressed that despite the loss of the Sheffield, the government's resolve is unimpaired.
Argentine troops at an anti-aircraft emplacement can see a British helicopter firing in the hills, but they can't hit it. The contrails are those of Harriers over Stanley. The Argentines had some air defense missiles, but not enough to win control of the air, a crucial factor in the war's outcome. In this one instance, however, the ground crew firing an Argentine missile claimed a hit, saying that distant puff of smoke is a British jet after its destruction. Eric Engberg, CBS.
We cannot demonstrate that the British have lied to us so far, but the Argentines clearly have.
What is it but treason to talk on TV, as Peter Snow talked, questioning whether the government's version of the sea battles was to be believed?
The world's most famous luxury liner was requisitioned by the government today. The QE2, because she's fast and can carry almost 3,000 men, is ideally suited for moving reinforcements to the South Atlantic. It came as a surprise to the ship's captain and to 200 Americans who'd gathered here in London preparing to start a Mediterranean cruise.
We were going to celebrate our anniversary on this cruise, and we are terribly disappointed. But the war, of course, is the important
I am not talking about failure. Failure? Do you remember what Queen Victoria once said? Failure? The possibilities do not exist, and we must go out calmly, quietly, to succeed.